Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm talking to Betty Horn. Betty Horn has been with me since like the beginning of the channel, very possibly within the first like 10 to 50 subscribers, somewhere in there. So since the dawning of the channel, and it's always been a joy to have her in the comments section. She comments a lot. You may have seen some of her comments because she's a frequent commenter. And it turns out that she has a channel of her own. I'm going to put the link for it in the description below, and then her channel's already been on my homepage as one of the featured channels, but now I'm going to like every time I do I interview a new person, I have them be like the first one, and it just kind of like cycles like that. But I'm going to bring her all the way back to the beginning so that you can find her more easily. And so make sure to check her out. We're going to be talking about her channel right now, to talk a little bit about Betty, get some of her views, opinions, and things like that. Now, Betty is in Florida. I always like to talk about where people are from. She's from Florida. She was a member of the Tabernacle Choir. I interviewed her before at the beginning of the channel, and we talked about her experience in the Tabernacle Choir. You'll have to remind me, though, again, what part of Florida are you in? Is it the Fort Lauderdale or is it Sarasota Springs? I can't remember.
It's the Bradenton, Sarasota area.
Okay. All right. And I don't think I asked last time, how long have you been a member of the church?
I've been a member of the church since 1978. Actually, July 8th was my birthday.
Okay. That's a great way to look at that. And so how old were you at the time?
I was 20, was I 23? Yeah, 23.
Okay, so early 20s. So
Yeah.
that is amazing. And she's still with the church, which is great. She hasn't been sifted out with the tares. She's still with the wheat. And so what was it that prompted you to start a channel? Because you've been doing it, like, this isn't new. You've been doing a channel for at least a little while. What started you doing your channel? What's it about? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. When I first started it, I didn't even realize I started it. I had made a video back in the day talking about my journey with grief, having lost both my boys. And I was talking about this was my new normal. And I posted that, and it stayed on the channel for like 5 years or so. And then after, I don't remember which one of the talks, but it was a recent talk about how we were encouraged to do more on social media regarding the church. And I thought, okay, well, I can, I don't know how to do anything. So I know how to film it on my phone and upload it. So everything you get is raw. It's just mistakes and all. And I tell you at the beginning, because I don't edit. I don't know how to edit. I don't do any of that stuff. So, but anyway, it began to be about my journey with grief. And I have, like, the past couple of months, maybe 3 months, I've changed direction. And what I have done is I've started to put on my studies, what I'm learning from the gospel, partly because I've talked about this a lot. I have a radio station going on in my head 24/7. And every night I go to sleep with a hymn in my head. Every morning I wake up with a hymn in my head. And I write down that I've begun to write down the hymns. And then I'll look at the hymns because I feel like, because the Lord talks to me through this, I hear the Spirit through music. And so I look at the hymn to figure out what message I have at that time. And so I will oftentimes I just go to the scriptures that are attached at the bottom. This last one that I did is doing that, and I'm calling them gospel glimpses. And because I'm so ADHD, I don't, even if I have a study plan, I don't stick to it. It's whatever comes into my head that day. and I will sit down and I will study and I will write it down and I will, comment for myself. And I've begun to share those on my YouTube channel. So it really has changed direction. I still I my music's on there. There's several songs that I've done, um, and I still will occasionally touch on grief. For instance, my sister's husband just passed away the 29th of June. And so, there's grief is an issue. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody has grief, and so I will touch on it every once in a while. But for the most part, I think I'm just going to stay with the gospel glimpses and just this is what I've learned today, and this is what I've learned today, and this is what I've learned today. So that's kind of what it's all about.
Okay. And I'm sorry for all your losses. For everybody, if you haven't checked out a couple of videos ago, I talked to an Irish LDS author, Thomas Holton, and we were talking about in that video how some people in this life go through things that other people don't go through. Betty's gone through something with her sons that it's not very common, and she has gone through that process and she's gained unique insights, obviously, something that most of us won't understand. And it's not the Lord's intention that every one of us have, a cookie cutter life where we all go through the exact same experiences. And so that would be one reason to check out her channel and listen to that, even though that may not have happened to you. There's probably a lot you can learn from her experience. I'm sure that she's learned a lot, and it's sad, but again, there's always something that you learn, even though it's like a horrible happening. It's not pleasant to go through, obviously. There are good things or big picture perspectives that you can get from going through that kind of thing. And so you can learn from Betty by listening to her experience. And then as far as, doing a YouTube channel, you know that, my channel is raw. I do like the intro and the outro. I put that was like a one-time thing. I put those together. Sometimes I update it a little bit, but everything else is just raw. It's very few times that I actually do any sort of editing. And it doesn't really matter. And if that's preventing you, anybody out there, from doing a YouTube channel, just don't worry about it. This is not YouTube is YouTube. It's not Hollywood tube. It's not New York tube. It's YouTube, and no one necessarily expects like a professional work. This isn't college. It's not a professional business. And that's like one of the things that I think appeals to people about YouTube is that it is raw. So, um, I go with the mistakes. If I mess up, then I just apologize for it in a next video. If someone tells me, oh no, that was wrong, then it's no big deal. Then I'll just move on. So good job, Betty. And just push forward, because it's the substance of what you have to share that really matters, not the polished appearance.
Correct.
So
And I look at it like this: if I can do it, anybody can.
yeah,
Because I've talked about it a million times. I'm a techno dinosaur. I mean, I'm old school. I'm I can't even remember what you call it in the library when it's the Dewey Decimal Center kind of thing.
yeah,
I'm that. I go way. I don't understand technology, and my brain isn't cut out for it to start with, and then you add on to it the health issues I've had. That it just does. And you can tell me 1,000 times, and it won't sink in. I just don't make those connections. So if I
yeah.
can do it, anybody can.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like you look at my friend Watcher Palmer, Scott Palmer, he doesn't he doesn't do thumbnails, for example, and it doesn't matter. He has something like 11.2 thousand subscribers. So he's a little bit larger of a channel than I am, but he doesn't all he does, he just he doesn't do any screen sharing. He just talks. Sometimes he'll read scriptures or he'll read from things, but all does is just talk, and that's what really matters. And I'm saying this because Betty responded to my call out for any sisters that want to do a YouTube channel. I wanted to help along the mission of the sisters of the church in their important role in the last days, according to the prophecy of President Kimball. So I want to help that along as much as I possibly can. And so, again, if you are wanting to respond to this call, just do it. You know, you have the prompting, just do it. Contact me, I'll interview you, and then promote your channel. And so yeah, don't limit yourself. It's okay. It's just YouTube. It's not a big deal. So music, you know, recently, I don't know if you saw the interview that I did with the Israeli Levite Nazarite, but one thing about the Levites is that in ancient times they were most part of their duties was they were in charge of music for the temple. They'd have like a Levite choir, and they also played instruments. And it's interesting to me that even today in the temple we have music. You know, if you go into the chapel, um, it depends on your temple. Sometimes you might just go straight to the, you know, the endowment room. Um, but if you like with larger chapels, a lot or larger temples, a lot of time you go to like a chapel first, and then they play music. If you're a youth, there's some baptistries that while you're waiting, there's an organ. So there's still music in the temples today. And I know that music is a huge thing to you. You've done the tabernacle choir. You said that you have a radio going on all the time in your head, which is amazing. Just can you expand more on that? Like, do you think that you'll talk more about music on the channel?
Well, I perform music, I sing, and much of what I mean, anything I do now is a cappella because I took 2 years of piano in college and I still can't play. So I sing a cappella, but I sing the hymns on occasion. I think I've done, I think in our last interview, somebody had requested you to have me back to sing Abide with Me. Well, I did that on my channel.
Oh, you
And
did? Okay.
I've sung Be Still My Soul. And I can't remember. I think there's another one that I've done. And plus the music that I wrote back in the day. And I I have my two favorite songs that I composed and performed. I did it's The Love of a Lifetime. I wrote a year after my younger son died, and then I Light a Candle. I wrote a year after my older son died, and those are my two of my favorites. And one of the things I've noticed talking about music, that even in my grief, when I write the music and when I get it down and I'm saying what I need to say, it always comes out positive. Like the last line in the Love of a Lifetime is, and he left behind just enough love to last my lifetime. And that no truer statement has ever been written, you know. And that's true of all of us. If we lost our dog, if we lost our father, if we lost our grandfather, if we lost our sibling, if we lost a child, anyone that we lose, they leave enough love behind to last us the rest of our lives. And then the other one that I wrote is I Light a Candle. And the reason I wrote that was because I wanted to give comfort, because my story is bigger than me. There's a lot of people who have suffered what I have suffered. And the chorus of I Light a Candle is, I light a candle in your name to show the world your light still shines in me. I show my tears, I shed my tears to ease the pain of the broken heart, my broken family, and I offer understanding, lending comfort where I may. As I shed my tears of sorrow, I reach out and light a candle in your name. I want people to know that, yeah, I feel it, and I feel it deeply. However, I'm here to comfort you as well. And that's what music does for music. When I was a child, I would go, were raised Lutheran, and I the rest of my sisters would be in school, and I would walk down to the church with my mother, and my mother would sit and practice the organ. She wasn't the main organist, but she was a substitute organist. And so she would go down and practice the organ. And I remember just leaning back against the side of the organ, and she would play all kinds of music, Bach, Beethoven, any Mozart, any of the classics that you can think of. And that's where of course, I think I did it, and I think I was singing in the womb. My mother taught me music, taught me and my sisters to sing in 5-part harmony, and she arranged all the music. And so I was raised with it. We used to sing at weddings. We used to sing at funerals. We used to sing at church functions. We sang on TV a couple of times, and so I was always in music. And then when I got into the upper schools, out of elementary school, I learned to play the oboe, and I ended up making solo chair in all state band when I was in 9th grade. And it just, and the reason I love, one of the reasons I love Be Still My Soul so much is because that was one of my first oboe solos, and it's so beautiful on the oboe. And I just, and the words, everything about that song I love. I think it was inspired. And so music isn't something I do, it's something I am. It
Yeah.
runs through my veins.
And
So
there, there's
that's
some people that are more inclined, like for example, like I really like music, but I I don't know if I'm like tone deaf, because like for example, I in high school I took beginning guitar, and I could not for the life of me tune my guitar like by ear. Uh I can't, like, even though I can hear the difference between notes, I can't hear the difference between notes, or at least I can't like sort them out in my mind like some people can. I
yeah.
wish, I wish that I really like singing, but I don't think I don't have like a good enough voice, and I really like the idea of playing instruments. But so I had this idea just now as you were talking. You know, music, it's important. Everything you said, the things that it brings your mind, the way it conditions your mind. And sorry, I don't mean to do a rehash, by the way, because like we talked a lot about this on the last interview, but that was about this time last year, when my appearance was very different. I was still wearing a cowboy hat, I had a beard, and I was at least 10 pounds heavier. I've lost like 10 pounds since I've started going to the gym. So a lot has changed since that time. So I wanted to just kind of like introduce some of those main things about you to everyone that's new to the channel since that time. But anyway, music. I've talked about how I want to encourage people that want to do YouTube channels to come on here, and then we'll promote your channel. Another thing I just realized, if you're someone that you're about music, okay, you like sharing the gospel through music, or even if it's not really gospel related necessarily, it's just like good music compared to bad music. I would be happy to, and this goes for you too, Betty, if you like, if you have like a recording of you playing a song, you can send it to me. I'll put it on the channel. We could even do like a piece of your music and do an interview, and just promote you as an artist or as a band, or whatever you might be. So anyone out there that's watching, if you do music, feel free to send me a video of you performing. I'll put it on the channel, and then in that way promote good music. And if you don't want to do an interview, that's fine too, but maybe that's another thing that I should do, is promote good music. Betty, what do you think about, I mean, this might be like a simple question, but what do you think about the difference between good music and bad music? And throughout your life, how have you seen the influence of both, as the decades have gone by? Because like music changes over time. There's different types of types of music that get more popular, and there's been all sorts of bad music and it's transformed over time, but there's also been good music. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh. I was kind of a music geek when I was a kid. I always loved the hymns. In fact, every time a new hymn book came out, regardless if I was in the Lutheran church, Presbyterian church, Methodist church, Baptist church, Church of Christ, I've been to all of them. And every time a new hymn book had come out, I'd get it, or I'd get my mom to get it, because my mom was also a music geek. My mom was playing piano or playing organ in the church when she was 4 years old, so she was kind of a virtuoso. And anyway, we always had good music in the home. We had, and anytime anything new. I remember when Born Free, I don't know if you know that song, Born Free. It came out attached, it was a movie, uh it was with a movie.
Sorry, what's
And
it called again? What's it called?
Born Free.
I don't think so. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, when that came out, my mother heard it once and sat down at the piano and played it. So it's that kind of music. We grew up with musicals. Uh, I can't think of her name. Mary Poppins and
Oh, that's
Sound of
isn't her
Music.
name Julie?
Julie Andrews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
When all of the musicals that she was in, we knew all the songs. We just, and that's not necessarily sacred music. It's secular music, but it's good music. It's music you can sing along to. You don't have to worry about any bad words in it. You don't have to worry about any bad messages in it. And I think that's the key. It's not the music itself, it's the message within the music. And there are, back in, going a little bit into music history, back in about 1500s, there were certain chords you were not allowed to use in creating your music. They called it's an augmented fifth, and nobody's going to know that unless they're a musician. But an augmented fifth it's an eerie sound, and they called it the chord of the devil. And if
Yeah,
you
I've
wrote
heard of
that,
that before. Yeah.
if yeah, if it ended up in your music, they would put you to death. They and burn your music.
Yeah.
That's how. Oh, and later on, people were able to put it in, and still, you can hear things in music, and talking even in classical music. And I'll give you, for instance, Bach had 13 kids, and he had been offered a position that would have made him like the best guy in Germany. Well, it was Bavaria at the time, but anyway, he was offered the top music position, and his wife died, and he moved home to take care of his kids, and he spent the rest of his life as a small town organist, so to speak. He really didn't become, and the whole Baroque era is by his birth and death. But as he was alive, nobody even noticed him because he didn't take that big position. Whereas you have somebody like Wagner. And again, I know if you're not a musician, you don't really understand these things. However, if you've ever heard Bugs Bunny singing "Kill the Wabbit,"
Yeah,
I don't.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
That's Wagner.
Okay.
And there's a lot of classical music in cartoons.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's Wagner. Now Wagner had an affair with another man's wife, had 4 children by her, and finally married her like 5 years before he died. He was a wife beater. He used to beat her up. He was very, in fact, Hitler did a lot of what he did based on Wagner's writings.
Oh my gosh.
That's how bad of a man he
That's
is. But
horrible.
he was. But yet he had all this beautiful music, but you can hear it. If you listen to things that he wrote, you can kind of hear in his, you can hear ego in his music, you can hear wickedness in his music. So it doesn't, music isn't good or bad based on whether it's classical or rock or country or whatever. It's based on the material within it. And that's what we have to tune our ears to. That's what we have to tune our hearts and minds to. And when you hear it, you'll recognize it.
Hmm. Yeah, because yeah, it's not just the lyrics, and it can be the actual melody. It could be the beat, because like there's clearly music out there that, let me put it this way, music can it affects your mood. It can put you in a good mood, it can put you in a bad mood, even if there's no singing. It's
Yeah,
just there so like there, I think there's different melodies, beats, whatever, that put you in a aggressive mood, or kind of pump up your primal urges of
yes,
because like in the army, they're not going to play sweet sounding music to pump you up. Or like when I was in high school, uh one thing that we did, I was on the wrestling team, and they would play music in there in the wrestling room, and it was never good sounding music. It was always music that got you pumped up and kind of aggressive and angry, because like that's the nature of wrestling. It's like you're wrestling, it's like it's a fight, And so yeah, and I think that generally we should maybe avoid that kind of music, if it's like making you feel aggressive, or you enjoy feeling aggressive or prideful, like you said with Wagner, because there's music that can kind of like make you feel prideful.
yeah.
So it's not just lyrics, because I
No,
can already hear there's like people out there. I think I've heard it in my life. There's people that'll justify and be like, well, there's no lyrics, or that it's there's no explicit material, or whatever in this song. It's like, but it's not just that. It's not
right,
just that. It's not just because they don't swear.
right.
So yeah, music. I
And
wish we
it's
could
not
like,
just genre. It's not just genre, because there's bad music in all
yeah.
genres. And just like there's good music in most genres, there are some things there is some music out there that, in my opinion, is debatable that it's even music. But I won't go into that.
Yeah.
but uh, it but yeah, there's good and bad in it all. And the adversary has infiltrated all of it,
Hmm.
and clear back in medieval times. That's why they were so careful about that devil's triad, because you could not put that in music, because that was the devil infiltrating.
So one thing, Betty, that you said, it made me think about something. Okay, if you know anything about the music industry, at least in the United States, and I'm sure it's like this throughout the world, you know that it's a very dark world. Even if you don't get into secret combinations and stuff like that, you start to realize really quick that there are powerful figures within that industry. There's agendas, and I would argue that Satan himself, because I believe that he has real, actual power in this world, that he really likes not only Hollywood but also music, and you have to wonder why. And I think it's related to what we were just talking about, how music, it affects the way your mood, but not just that. I think it affects the way that you think. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. You start it and not only does it infiltrate your brain, but then it starts to infiltrate your emotions. And it starts to infiltrate, you'd mentioned earlier about primal urges and such. And yes, there are songs you can listen to and you can actually feel it. And that's why I say I feel music. I don't just sing it, I don't just perform it. It literally runs through me. So I can feel the difference between what's good and what's not so good. And yes, oh, he definitely uses uh he uses music like the Lord uses the Spirit. And that's how dangerous it can be. And people just don't think there's anything wrong, like you said, as long as there's no bad lyrics, that there's nothing wrong with the music. Well, and then you look at the bands behind it, whatever bands you're listening to, whether it's a classical a symphony or opera. Or, in fact, I have to add this. Brigham Young used to counsel his people to go to the opera because that way they would learn why they should not do those things, that they should not live those ways, because opera is uh, always ends up in tragedy. Always the main guy dies or the main girl dies, or and it's usually because of suicide or because they're slain in battle or something. It really is. um, and music is like that, and the adversary uses it that way. And because he can't influence us the way the Holy Ghost can influence us, but he can influence us with music, which is almost like being influenced by the Holy Ghost. And if you're not watching it, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You're going
Yeah.
to have something come over you and think, oh, I was in, the Spirit told me this and the Spirit told me that. Well, no, it came from the music you were listening to, and you're listening to the wrong spirit. It can be dangerous. We have to be so careful, especially in these days. It's so much worse now than it was. And I grew up in the 60s. And of course, like I said, I was a music geek, so I wasn't really, I rebelled after my mother passed away. I kind of rebelled and went down the road. But when I was 23, like I said, I learned the gospel and I was baptized, and even that was a rocky road. I still had alcoholism I had to battle, and I will say that October 25th will mark 40 years. That's 40 years since I've had a drink.
All
So I
right.
think that's an accomplishment.
40 is
but
always an important number. 40 is the number of testing, like the children of Israel in the wilderness, the building of the Salt Lake Temple. It's like a period of purifying. It's a period of going through a test, kind of, and it looks like you
boy,
passed
my
the
40
test.
years has been a test, let me tell you. I think I've told you that my first husband made the FBI's most wanted list.
No, I don't think
And
so.
oh gosh, yeah,
Pretty sure I would have remembered that.
my abnormal psychology teacher when I was in college thought I was a gem because I had a story for everything they came up with. That Ted Bundy was caught in my neighborhood
Oh goodness.
by a personal friend. He was caught by Bob Hayward, and his brother Pete Hayward was the Salt Lake County sheriff at the time. And my house was on the corner, and he was caught like the next street over, just around the corner.
Wow.
And yeah.
All I know about him
uh,
is I'm originally from Murray, and I think the only girl that got away from him was at the Fashion Place Mall, which is in Murray, and it was like in the
yeah.
parking lot. And when I found out that story, I was like, "What? He was at the Fashion
When
Place
he was
Mall?"
in my neighborhood,
Well,
when he was in my neighborhood, he was chasing her.
oh my gosh.
That's what he was doing. He was chasing her, and she got away. Yep, the only one that got away.
That's crazy.
So
But
yeah, I got
yeah,
stories.
yeah. I think about when I was young, speaking of the Fashion Place Mall, because when I was young, malls were still a thing.
Oh
And
yeah,
it kind of like scares me, the music that I was listening to when I was a teenager. Cause
yeah,
like now when I listen to it, like if I could see my teenage self, I would like, I would slap him across the head. What are you doing?
yeah,
Cause it's like so bad. And and that's the unfortunate thing is like with the agendas that they have, a big part of that plan is the youth because
yes,
youth are all into music. Everyone
yes,
loves music, but youth, it's kind of a symbol of like how cool you are, what kind of music you listen to,
yeah,
and your
yeah,
stereo or your sound system or whatever.
yeah,
So they really, it's very insidious, and like you said, it infiltrates,
yes,
because if you don't really think about it, you just think, oh, it's just music. It's not a big deal. And a lot of people have that attitude. And that's what Satan's counting on. It's like, yeah, it's just music. That's all it is. It's just
yeah,
music.
yeah,
And then before you know it, it's a, cause like, music is literally frequency, and you kind of like, you get on the same frequency as
yes.
what
That's
frequency they want you on.
Yep, that's exactly it. Music is a frequency. When you tune your instruments, you tune it to a frequency. And when you create music, you intertwine frequencies so that they're harmonic. If something's out of tune, there will be a dissonance, and basically the frequency, if you could see it on an oscillator, the frequency will vibrate like this, and if it's in tune, it'll be a smooth line. And so, and you'll hear that dissonance. I have one thing in common with President Nelson. I have perfect pitch. And I can hear that dissonance and it drives me nuts. And I actually got to the point where I couldn't stand to hear people singing solos in sacrament meeting because it really hurt my ears. It
Yeah.
really did. Because if you're not on key, in pitch, perfectly tuned. If you're not a perfectly tuned instrument, it was so overwhelming to my ears. It really hurt my ears. And I got to the point, plus I had an ego, and that's another story. But I got to the point where I prayed to Heavenly Father that I would be able to hear with his ears. Because he doesn't say sing with perfect pitch. He doesn't say sing with uh, the voice of an angel. He says make a joyful noise. and
Yeah.
and I had to learn to appreciate a joyful noise. And so now it doesn't bother me. But boy, it did for many years. And I just I had a real difficult time overcoming that. But it's again that frequency. It's kind of like, to me, it's like if you were to take sandpaper and just keep rubbing it on your skin.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're gonna have a real irritation there, and it's hard to explain to people who don't understand it. But I believe that everybody can hear it, to some, because you can hear the frequencies. It's not a matter of perfect pitch or whatever. You just can hear frequencies, and you can hear what sounds good and what doesn't sound good. And
Yeah.
I and unless you have true tone deafness, which I don't think you do. But if you unless you have true tone deaf, and unless you are truly tone deaf, I can sit down and I can show you different things. Like I can show on a piano, even though I don't play it, I know the elements of it. But
Mhm.
I can show you different things where you could say, "Oh, that sounds good," and I can play another chord, and you say, "Oh, no, that doesn't sound good," and so even the most basic person can hear the difference between what sounds good and what doesn't. You just have to train your ear. And when you train your ear, then you start feeling the difference. If it feels good, then and I mean when it really feels good. I'm not talking about the 60s term if it feels good, you do it, you know.
Mm.
But if it really does feel soothing, if it feels soothing to the soul, the one thing the adversary cannot imitate is peace. He
Right.
can even imitate the burning in your breast, but he cannot imitate peace. That's the one thing he cannot do, because he doesn't know peace and he doesn't understand peace, and he can't recreate something he doesn't understand. He then can't recreate something he doesn't know. And so that's the one thing. So when you feel at peace with something, whether it's music or what you're reading, or who you're listening to on YouTube, or podcasts or whatever, if it brings you peace, if it brings you that calmness, then you know it's going to be okay. But if it doesn't, you need to question it. There are people that are members of the church that have said things that are kind of off the wall, in my opinion, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not right, and I question it. And if they have a viable answer, I'll think about it, and I'll think, okay, well, maybe that makes sense. But there are things that people have said that are just totally off, and I can just pick up on that because I'm listening for it. If I'm not listening for it, I'm not going to pick up on it.
Yeah. You know, it makes me wonder, because I recently did a video about the dedication, the first dedication of the Salt Lake Temple, and how there were all sorts of like angelic experiences where people were literally seeing angels. But not just that, there were a couple separate reports that some people heard like a choir, and there was no choir. So it was clearly some kind of angelic choir, and they say that it was like the most beautiful music. And another thing that you hear a lot of times with near death experiences, and I know that you have was it a family member that had a near death
My
experience?
father-in-law, my
Yeah.
father-in-law, he was dead for over 3 days.
Yeah. That's a long time. um
Yeah.
but a common theme with near death experiences is also, well, it's somewhat common anyway, is the reporting of beautiful music, like the most beautiful music that you've ever
Yes.
heard. And so, even though we don't necessarily have that right now, and it drives you nuts, and it drives me nuts sometimes too. Maybe not as much as you, because I don't have that perfect pitch, but um I'm excited to see what that music sounds like. Whenever they describe that, it makes me wonder, what does that sound like? It's got to be just like the most perfect, beautiful music. And I'm also hoping that either after we're translated, and then certainly by the time that we're resurrected, hopefully everybody will have a good voice, because I would really like to. I love singing.
Yeah.
There's something about not just listening to music, but actually performing music, because
Yes.
it's like that kind of takes it to the next level. Do you feel the
It
same way?
does. Oh, absolutely. I have a story with the angelic help, so to speak, with the angelic choirs. When the hymn book first came out in 1985, there was this song in it called "On This Day of Joy and Gladness," and we were trying to learn it in Relief Society, and nobody could get it. I can read music, so I can look at a piece of music and know what it's supposed to sound like. And so everybody's trying to, I wasn't leading the music, but everybody's trying to figure this piece of music out, and to me it was just so beautiful and so simple. Well, as we started to sing it, I literally heard, and I'm not the only one that heard it, we heard angels helping us sing that song, and it was
Wow.
so beautiful. It was like, because there was only like maybe 30 women in the room, and it was like having 200 people singing. It just was so beautiful, and I could get goosebumps. That's what made me choose that song to audition for the Tabernacle Choir.
Wow.
That's one of the songs that I used. I sang that, and I sang "Abide with Me," and so we had a choice. They gave us 3 songs to choose from, and "Abide with Me" was one of them, and then we could choose any other song that we wanted to out of the hymn book. And so that's the other one that I chose. And it was so beautiful. And there was one other experience, and I can't remember it right now. I won't tie it up. It'll come if it comes. But just that experience, and oh, I know what it was. It wasn't an experience, it was a thought. Somebody had talked about singing with Christ. Can you imagine what it's going to be like to sing with Christ? He, of all people, would have the most beautiful, perfect voice.
Yeah,
I
you would
just,
assume so. Yeah, for
oh
sure.
my gosh, I can't even imagine what it would be like singing a duet with Christ. And because I'm a soloist. People always want me to sing solos, and I'll conduct music, and nobody will sing because they want to hear me sing, which is frustrating to me because I'm not up there to sing a solo every week. But what I really like is communal singing. I like singing with a group. I like singing duets. I like singing quartets. To me, singing with people is so much more enjoyable. It's like the difference between even people, even solo singers in whatever genre. If you notice, if they have a band and their band and the camaraderie they have with their band, you see that on stage, and you get this excitement that you don't get just by the soloists themselves. And I just I just hope that I get in the choir when I get there.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. In the last interview, we were talking about that, how music is kind of like it's actually kind of like a Zion-like concept, because when you have many people participating, whether it's a symphony or whether it's a cappella or whatever it is, if you have more than just one person, it requires everyone to be on the same sheet of music. It requires
Yes.
everyone to harmonize. So music is a very Zion, it's like almost like a practice in being Zion, being one of heart and one of mind.
And
And yeah, go ahead.
what do the scriptures say? They say the song of the righteous is a prayer unto me.
Yeah, and it makes sense why
Singing.
it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense why that would be.
Yeah.
And I recently talked about, there's this channel called The Relaxing Walker, and he's an Israeli guy, and he just like goes to different towns in Israel. He does a lot of walking around Jerusalem. And the very first video that I watched of his, it was nighttime, and it was on Jerusalem Day, and everybody, had their Israeli flags. The city was very busy, a lot of people out on the streets. And I'll put that video in the description below in case anybody wants to watch it. But there's a part where he's in the Jewish quarter, and there's like this I don't know how to describe it, but like so he's like walking down this road, and the roads are really small because it's the old part of the city. And you walk down these steps, and there's like this open area, rectangular in shape, and there's like these, I guess it's like the site of some ancient something, because like there's these like columns and stuff. Well, on this night there were all these young girls, meaning, like teenagers, maybe early 20s. They were sitting kind of like on the inside of the columns in a rectangle, and they were all like singing together. I suppose in Hebrew. I didn't understand what they were singing, but it was the most beautiful thing, one of the most beautiful things I
Yeah.
ever heard, because whatever their songs had to do with, they were doing it in conjunction with the celebration of Jerusalem Day. And a lot of people were stopping to watch them. And I guess anybody could join, because like I saw some girls just like come down and just like join them. I don't know if it was some kind of impromptu thing or whatever, but it really added to the ambiance and the spirit of that night. That's my favorite part of the video, is that they were just like singing in this kind of just like a joy, because it's celebrating Israel gaining control of Jerusalem after the 6 Day War in 1967. So music, very important,
Oh,
huge.
absolutely.
it's amazing that it's been such a big part of your life. And hopefully for those of us that wish that we could get more into it, we'll have the chance after this life. But it's the best thing. And we should not kid ourselves. We know when it's bad music. I have like a member of my family, extended family, that listens to bad music and just is always justifying it. And I talked to him about it one time and I'm like, it's not good. It's bad. And just all sorts of justifications. And um, I'm a little bit worried for, well, I guess I don't want to go. I'm just worried about his family, essentially, that he continues to do that, because if things kind of go south, it probably wouldn't be because of the music itself. There's probably some deeper issues there that need to be
Exactly.
resolved. The music is just kind of a symptom of that, but it's just like if things kind of went south, it'd be like, hey, maybe it's because you have this, you're always listening to this. Maybe this is not
Yeah.
helping your situation. Maybe start cutting some of that out, because it just, uh, music
Consider
is,
having to justify it.
what was that?
Consider having, if you have to justify it, there, consider that. I mean, some things you justify because it's the truth, and you justify it because it's the truth. But there are other things. If you're busy trying to justify it, trying to make something it's okay because if you're trying to justify it, question it.
Hmm.
There's something there that needs to be questioned.
Yeah. And guys, for anyone that's watching, it's like, I'm pretty sure that in the millennium and also into the eternities, into the social kingdom, in case you're worried, I don't think it's all just going to be choir music or symphony or orchestra, which
No.
I love those things, but like there's a great variety of music, and I'm pretty sure that all different genres will be present. Um, into it'll be interesting to see what music is like in the millennium, because like how I was talking recently with Joseph Signs, and he's into filmmaking and he's done a lot of work for the church. And we were talking about Hollywood and what things are going to look like in the millennium, how film and entertainment's going to change. And of course, that would include music. And it's exciting because probably in the millennium, there's not going to be any music that you have to avoid. There's just going to be all different types, all different genres, and you can count on them being clean and okay to listen to.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's all just necessarily just going to be what we typically think of as spiritual music, which is choir and stuff like that. Is There's probably going to be quite a variety, I would assume.
I think so. I think there's going to be secular music as well as spiritual music.
Hmm.
And secular, all that means is it's not secular is like anything that's not sacred. And secular can be good or bad, and so but yeah, we'll have secular music as well, like I talked about, the all the musicals that were out there of the 60s and so on, and think of Do Re Mi and The Hills Are Alive and that's not spiritual music, but it's music, and it's good music, and it's fun music to sing. The little nursery rhymes you learn as a kid, they're just fun little songs to sing,
Yeah.
and they make you happy. And so yeah, that's going to continue. And I mean, kids are going to need to learn to sing. They're going to need to learn these things. And so there's going to be people writing those little ditties for little kids. and
Hmm.
and so there's going to be all kinds of music.
Yeah. I've gotten a lot of compliments on the music that I chose for my intro and outro. And in case anyone's wondering, it's not copyrighted music. YouTube has and this might be interesting for you if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel. YouTube has an audio library that's for creators, that the people that submitted the music, they did it with the intention of allowing it to be used for YouTube copyright free. Usually they require attribution. So like in the description of all my videos, it's going to show up that I can't I can't remember what this group. I think they're the 176ers. Anyway, it's in the description. But anyway, well, no, my group, they didn't require attribution, but YouTube like automatically puts it anyway. Anyway, the point is that I've gotten a lot of good compliments on the music in that song. I'm so happy that I came across it because I just think it's the coolest, just nice sounding song. It's like perfect for my channel, and I feel like
It is.
yeah,
It fits your channel, and it fits you, and I like it too.
yeah,
Again, you know, I like, there's very little music I don't, very little genres of music. There's a lot of music I don't like, but there's very little genres of music that I don't like. And so, you know, I don't listen to just opera and tabernacle choir.
yeah,
You know, I listen to a lot of stuff, and I mean, I'm a child of the '60s. I listen to a lot of '60s music, but again, I'm careful. You know, there are times when my husband and I will be listening to the radio and going down the road, and something will come on that's just not right. We change the channel. We just,
hmm,
you know, we can do that. We have that choice. We don't have to. We're not tied to the seat and speaker stuck in our ear. we
yeah,
we 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 have a choice to change the channel, which is, you know, that's a good metaphor for everything. You know, if something's not going right in your life, change the channel.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we'll end on that note. We're coming up on an hour, but thank you again, Betty, for coming on the channel. I'm sure that we'll talk again sometime in the future. I'm sure I'll talk to pretty much all my guests again at some point. But thank you for showing up again 1 year later. This month I'm celebrating 1 year since I've been doing this, and I kind of, I didn't think it would come this far, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen in this next year. Hopefully I'll be like even thinner and get down to my army weight. That's kind of my goal, is to get back down to like the 170s or something like that. So yeah, I know I'm being serious, everybody, and for you too, Betty. If you have some kind of recording, video or not, feel free to send it to me. In that way, I can promote your, if you have a YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, or if you have like some other whatever your setup is, I would like to promote that. So feel free to send me your music, and that might be another great thing for me to promote, because we need good music, and many of you are talented. Again, just consecrate your talents, your time, and I'd be more than happy to help you do that. So uh again, I'll put Betty's channel in the description below, and it's also on my home screen under featured channels, so you can find it either way. Or you can just look up Betty Horn, because that's the name of the channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, if you're new, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. I'm sure a lot of people will have comments on this one, because everybody loves music. And then make sure to share this with anyone that might find it interesting, and I'll talk to you guys later.